The dog trembled in her cage, her belly heavy with unborn puppies. Everyone thought she was just another stray. But when a stranger wiped the dust off her collar, his face went pale. The truth hidden there would not only save her life, it would shock the world. The shelter was loud with the constant chorus of barking, but in the farthest corner sat a dog who made no sound at all. Her ribs showed through her dull coat, her belly swollen with the weight of unborn puppies. While others barked and begged for attention, she simply lay there, her amber eyes heavy with exhaustion. Her name wasn't on her cage, only a number. To the workers, she was just another stray dropped off without a past. But there was something different about her. She carried herself with a quiet dignity, as if she had once known love, but had long since given up on finding it again. Families came and went, pausing at the cages filled with playful pups and wagging tails. No one spared more than a passing glance at the pregnant dog. Whispers of too much work and too risky floated past her kennel like a final verdict. Each day the list grew shorter, the names of dogs who found homes. And each day her chances faded. In the overcrowded shelter, space was limited and time was cruel. For a dog like her, both were running out. She didn't know it yet, but tomorrow was scheduled to be her last day. The morning began like any other. At the shelter, metal doors clanging, food bowls sliding across concrete, the smell of disinfectant filling the halls. But for the pregnant shepherd in Kennel 17, this day was different. A red mark on the clipboard hanging outside her cage carried a weight she couldn't understand. To the staff, it meant her time was almost over. She watched the workers move past her, their voices low, their faces tired. One young volunteer paused, kneeling at her cage. "I'm so sorry, girl," she whispered, slipping a biscuit through the bars. The dog licked it slowly, her eyes never leaving the woman's face. There was no anger in them, only fear, and something even deeper, surrender.in. The office, paperwork was signed. Space was scarce, and pregnant dogs were rarely adopted. "She's unadoptable," one staff member said flatly. "It's kinder this way." Back in her kennel, the shepherd curled into herself, trembling. Around her, the barking of other dogs grew louder, but she stayed silent. She could feel the weight of time pressing down. Every tick of the clock brought her closer to the end. Her final hours had begun. The shelter's door creaked open, letting in a rush of cool morning air. A tall man stepped inside, his boots echoing against the concrete floor. He wasn't looking for a puppy or a companion. He wasn't even sure why he had come. Something had simply drawn him there. As he walked past rows of kennels, dogs leapt and barked, eager to be noticed. But he didn't stop. His eyes scanned the cages, searching for something. Then, in the dim light at the far end, he saw her. The shepherd didn't move. She only lifted her head slightly, her eyes meeting his with quiet desperation. It was a look that pierced straight through him. The shelter worker beside him frowned. "That one's scheduled," she said softly, but the man didn't hear. He couldn't look away. Something about her felt familiar, though he couldn't explain why. The man stepped closer to the kennel, his eyes narrowing as he studied the quiet shepherd. Unlike the others, she didn't bark or paw at the bars. She only sat there, trembling slightly, her swollen belly resting heavily on the floor. "Can I see her?" he asked. The worker hesitated, then unlocked the gate. The dog didn't resist as he crouched down, extending a hand. Slowly, cautiously, she lifted her paw and placed it in his palm, as if begging for a chance she knew she wouldn't. It was then that he noticed something beneath the grime of her fur, a worn leather collar, nearly hidden. He brushed it gently, revealing faint engravings on a small metal tag. His heartbeat quickened as he read the letters. The tag wasn't new, and it wasn't random. It carried a name, a family name. The man froze, his chest tightening. He knew that name. It wasn't just any collar. It was a link to a story he thought had ended years ago. His voice cracked as he whispered, "This dog. She belonged to someone." The shelter worker leaned closer, her eyes widening. "Wait, you recognize it?" The man nodded, still staring at the tag. The worker shook her head. "Sir, she's pregnant. No one adopts dogs like this. It's too risky. Too much responsibility." But the man wasn't listening. His eyes stayed locked on the faint engraving of that collar, on the silent plea in the shepherd's trembling body. Something inside him hardened, a decision forming before he could stop it. I'll take her, he said firmly. The worker blinked. You don't understand. She needs constant care. Medical bills, food, space for the puppies. I said I'll take her, he repeated, his voice steady. The room fell quiet. Papers shuffled reluctantly across the counter. Signatures scribbled, warnings murmured. But the man's resolve never wavered. As he clipped the leash onto her collar, the shepherd rose slowly, almost in disbelief. For the first time in weeks, she stepped out of the kennel, not toward her end, but toward a chance at life. The car ride home was quiet, the soft hum of the engine broken only by the occasional whimper from the passenger seat. The shepherd sat curled on a blanket, her body tense, eyes darting nervously at every passing sound. She didn't yet understand. Her life had been spared. The man kept glancing at her, his hands gripping the wheel a little tighter each time her gaze met his. You're safe now, he whispered, though he wasn't sure she believed him. When they reached his small farmhouse, he opened the door and stepped back, giving her space. Slowly, she padded out, sniffing the fresh grass beneath her paws. The air was different here, clean, open, free. Inside, he set a bowl of food and water near the fireplace. She hesitated, then crept forward, taking cautious bites. Minutes later, she curled into the blanket he'd laid out, her belly rising and falling in a rhythm of deep, exhausted sleep. The man stood watching, a strange feeling swelling in his chest. She wasn't just another rescue. That collar, that name, it meant something. But for now, he let her rest. For the first time in weeks, the dog finally dreamed in peace. The shepherd stirred on her blanket, stretching carefully before curling back around her swollen belly. The man knelt beside her, brushing his hand along the worn collar. Something about it gnawed at him. He fetched a cloth and gently polished the brass tag. As the grime faded, the letters grew clearer, not just a name, but a number etched beneath it. His pulse quickened. This wasn't the mark of an ordinary family pet. He pulled out his laptop, entering the details into a search engine. Hours passed as he dug through old records and databases, determination driving him. Then, suddenly, he found it, an archived report from years ago. The collar number matched a registered service dog. She had once been part of a search and rescue unit, deployed during natural disasters. The report praised her courage, finding survivors under collapsed buildings, refusing to leave until help arrived. But there was another detail. During one mission, she vanished. Separated from her handler in the chaos, she was presumed dead. The unit mourned her, a hero lost in service. Now here she was, alive, abandoned, carrying new life inside her. The man leaned back, breathless. She wasn't just a dog on death row. She was a hero, forgotten by everyone but fate. And fate had placed her in his hands. That night, the man awoke to soft whimpers echoing through the farmhouse. He hurried to the living room, where the shepherd lay restless on her blanket. Her sides heaved, her eyes wide with both fear and determination. The moment had come that he knelt beside her, speaking gently. It's okay, girl. I'm here. He had never delivered puppies before, but instinct and compassion guided him. He fetched towels, warm water, and stayed close, his voice a steady anchor in the storm. Hours passed in a blur of anxious waiting. The dog groaned, pushing through the pain, her body trembling with effort. Then, at last, a tiny cry filled the room. A puppy, wet, fragile, and alive, wriggled into the world. One became two. Two became three. Soon, the blanket was alive with tiny movements, each new life a miracle against impossible odds. The shepherd, exhausted but radiant, licked her newborns clean, her eyes shining with something fierce and eternal. Motherhood. The man sat back, overwhelmed. In his farmhouse, on a night when she was never meant to see the sunrise, a condemned dog had given birth to hope itself. In the quiet days that followed, the farmhouse was filled with soft whimpers and tiny cries. The man cared for them all, making sure the mother was fed, the puppies warm, and the house calm. One evening, as he cleaned the collar again, his phone buzzed with a reply from the rescue unit. The number he'd found wasn't just from any record. It was linked to a retired officer, a man who had once trusted this dog with his life. The handler's message was simple, but powerful. Her name is Grace. She saved dozens. I thought I'd lost her forever. The man looked across the room. Grace lay curled around her puppies, her eyes meeting his with quiet recognition. She wasn't just a rescue. She was a survivor, a hero, and now, finally, she was home.